This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Welcome to the show, folks. We appreciate you joining us here today for Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement. Mark, my friend, welcome. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's just hard to get my mind around the fact that we're already into 2025. It still feels like 2022 or 3 to me.
Speaking of a new year, a lot of folks take this opportunity and they start thinking about maybe some changes they're going to make in the new year. So we asked a few of our listeners if they're planning on making any resolutions about their retirement in 2025.
Just travel and spend more time with my kids and grandkids. We're looking forward to it.
Just financial security and enjoy my family.
I think I've saved and I think I'm good to go, but I'd like a second opinion.
All right. So a lot of these, I think myself and I know our listeners, we can identify with spending more time with family and friends, traveling, doing things we want to do. So I'm curious to know, what are some retirement resolutions, Mark, that you think we need to consider here in 2025?
I think the biggest question for anyone contemplating retirement is how much is enough? And when I say how much is enough, I'm referring specifically to income. What does our lifestyle require? And one door opens up in a bunch of other doors, because if I say, for example, I need $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or whatever my number is, then that we can build a plan on. But if people don't have an idea of what their expenses are going to be going into retirement, it's very hard to build a dependable plan. And this is really a loaded question, because I think it's the great question of life when it comes to economics, is how much is enough? Some people retire very inexpensively because they have perhaps simpler or less expensive lifestyles. They do things in the outdoors. They go to the parks, walk their dogs. They travel in an existing motorhome. Others are out buying new motorhomes and traveling internationally and doing all sorts of things. So everyone's got to determine for themselves what they want that last chapter of life really to look like. I'm tremendously impressed with one of our clients. She is a physician, lives in Colorado, actually. And she learned early in life that really money and things didn't bring happiness. She went to South America for a year and backpacked around when she was 18. And she came back with the realization that the happiest people she had ever experienced had very little materially. And so she actually lives a lifestyle now that's very much outdoors oriented. She works part-time as a physician, even though she has tremendous earning capacity. She chooses to live on less and to live a self-aware kind of lifestyle. Most people don't do that work. They haven't had that kind of moment of clarity where they really determine, what do I want that last chapter of life to be like? And so that's the homework assignment I would encourage people to do is have this conversation. I mean, I literally had it with my wife here over the new year. We spent a stupid amount of money in 2024 with a new home and some different things. And so we were talking about, obviously this isn't sustainable, but how much is enough? At what point do we slow down? At what point do we stop doing certain things and start doing other things? And so that's my big question to people, is how much is enough? What is it you really want to experience in that last chapter of life? So there's your homework.
There you go. There's your homework for the night, folks. Go home and jot down, how much is enough? How much do you think you're going to need? What do you want to do in retirement? And it varies for everybody. Everyone's situation is different. If you're single, if you're married, if you're widowed, if you have kids, grandchildren, everybody's situation is different. And these are conversations, Mark, that you have every single day. But you're exactly right. I mean, think about just when you prepare to go on a vacation, and maybe you're going to Disney World or something, you start estimating how much are the tickets, how much is this, how much is dinner going to be. So you start kind of guesstimating and estimating how much cash you should bring to how much you're going to spend. Same kind of concept when it comes to retirement. You have to have an idea of how much money you need, so how much you're going to spend, so that you also avoid that number one fear of running out of money. And Mark, This is a question you answer every single day. Have I done enough? Am I going to run out of money? And how are you sure I'm not going to run out of money?
Most people, candidly, the average retirement age is 62, and that, frankly, is too early for the vast majority of Americans. Many people ask this question of, when should I retire? That's one of the top questions that comes out of these online kind of inquiries and surveys. When should I retire? Well, it's really when you can afford to. It's not some magic date like age 65. That whole age 65 business, that comes from the 1890s with Otto von Bismarck in the former Prussia when they first established the original social insurance programs. And people have had age 65 stuck in their mind for forever. And yet now we're living so much longer than people did back then. So we really have to think differently about all these things. So the average retirement age is increasing right now based on Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
The full retirement age is now, for most people, going to be 67. Anyone born after 1960 has
Sure.
their full retirement benefit available at age 67. That's been gradually increasing from age 66 incrementally to age 67. But most
Mm-hmm.
people are actually retiring much earlier.
And of course, you talked about here the full retirement age has changed. Yes, it has. Every single year, the age when retirees can begin to claim Social Security benefits without penalty has been getting higher. It's called the full retirement age. Last year, it was 66 and 8 months for people born in 1958. In 2025, it's 66 years and 10 months for those born in 1959. Next year, the new full retirement age will be 67 years, even for those born in 1960. So, bottom line, this sounds like a long wait here. So, Mark, can you explain how claiming benefits earlier than the short changes your monthly check? At the end of the day, does waiting a few more months make a difference?
Really, it doesn't make the dramatic difference that people think. They hear this full retirement age of, for example, 67 for people like me born after 1960, and they think, oh, I've got to hit that magic date, as it were. But the truth is, we can claim Social Security anytime between age 62 and age 70. The real full retirement benefit is available at age 70 because every month that we delay claiming benefits between age 62 and 70, the greater the payout will be. This idea of a short change or a holding back of the benefits only applies to people who claim Social Security while still working. If you fully retire at 62, there's not going to be any reduction in your or any holding back of a portion of your benefits. You're going to get whatever the benefit is based on age 62. If you're working, though, to, let's say, age 70 and you claim Social Security at age 62, yeah, they're going to hold back a portion of your benefits until you hit whatever they determine your full retirement age to be. But you will get that benefit. You'll recapture it after your full retirement age. So there's an offset that happens. Most people should claim Social Security once they quit working and not before then, unless there's some other extenuating circumstance like poor health or something. Because, I mean, obviously, if you're terminally ill, take the Social Security benefit as soon as you can. In some cases, you can actually claim retroactively when you're terminally ill like that. So there's a lot of considerations. And the bottom line is it's not a simple answer, and each person needs to look at all their options. And so to help them, we offer a free service to the public. And that is for people who are willing to bring us their Social Security reports, their estimated benefits, we're able to run a software program, an analysis for them. And we do it at no cost, but it helps them determine when the best time would be for them to claim and what their estimated benefits will be. There was just a change in the law here just a week or two ago. What's called the windfall elimination provision has been eliminated. That was a penalty, as it were, for people who worked in the public sector and no longer contributed to Social Security. Now, I'm not going to say if I agree with that change that President Biden pushed through or not, but I will say there's a change. And the bottom line is things change.
Now, Mark, I'm glad you're sitting down because this is breaking news here. Republicans and Democrats, they may not see eye to eye on much, God knows if anything. But apparently, there's a new study from Greenwald Research that says both parties agree that there is a retirement crisis. And then they've identified 4 of the biggest issues. Number 1, too much debt. I think we all agree there. Number 2, inflation. Absolutely. Number 3, uncertainty about Social Security. Makes sense. Number 4, lack of a pension or guaranteed income. Mark, take it away here. How do you address these issues when it comes to your planning meetings?
Well, I totally agree with that consensus because these are all big issues. I mean, too much personal as well as too much government debt. There are two different sides to that. There's definitely too much government debt, and that foreshadows the dramatic increases in taxes that many of us are expecting. So there's tax planning that needs to be done. Most Americans have way too much money in tax-deferred plans, which means they have postponed the calculation of a tax and the payment of a tax into a future date when tax rates could be much higher. So debt is a problem at a government level. It's certainly a problem at a personal level. Too many people are going into retirement with credit card debts, maybe mortgages that they shouldn't have, or at least mortgage payments that they could get rid of with different strategies. Inflation is a fear because we can't control that. That's government caused. And Lord knows the government's done some crazy things the last few years that have hurt us there. There are changes that are going to have to be made to Social Security. When those are going to happen will probably be last minute because that's the way Congress tends to function. They'll do what's right typically, but only at the last final moment when they're forced to do so, kicking and screaming. And then the biggest one is this idea of pensions. I mean, almost everyone, wherever you go and look at the studies, concurs that it was a real setback when society, or when American society shifted to these voluntary payment programs like 401ks. As wonderful as they are, people gave up or lost this guaranteed lifetime income that they were accustomed to, that our grandparents were accustomed to, in the form of a pension. So those who aren't familiar with pensions, it's the basic idea that after you've done a period of time of work, your employer is going to pay you a monthly payment for the rest of your life as long as you live. Well, there are private alternatives to that, and there's things government can do in terms of education, as well as modifying 401k plans and the like, where we can bring far more awareness to the ability that Americans have to create income they can't outlive. Now, invariably, that has to come from insurance companies, because it's life insurance companies specifically that study life and death trends. When or how many people are going to die in a given year. You know, they don't know you by name as far as who's going to die. The mafia may, but the government doesn't.
Right.
The insurance companies don't, but the insurance companies know how many people are going to die. And because they deal with those issues, they can also not only deal with people dying too soon in the form of life insurance, but they can also deal with people that may live too long or longer than expected in the form of an annuity. Now, an annuity has many different features. It means many different things to many different people because it's a real multi-purpose kind of product. But one of its fundamental core features is the ability to create income that a person can't outlive. And our political leaders, as well as just economists generally, everyone in the retirement planning industry understands the importance of not running out of money before you die. We don't want anyone at the most vulnerable years without money. And so annuities are a wonderful tool, a very unique tool to be able to close that gap. Now, should you put all your money in annuities? Of course not. It's a tool is all it is, and that it works for some people. It's not needed by other people. But if you don't know anything about these, we'd say come visit with us, learn how these unique products can solve the greatest fear that most Americans have, and that is of running out of money too soon. We can literally create income you can't outlive. And so people like myself, I mean, literally this week, I let one of my team members know that I want to set up 2 new accounts, one for me and one for my wife. And I'm going to roll some money out of personal savings. I'm also going to roll some money out of my 401k plan into annuities that can give us safe growth into the future and give the ability to create income we can't outlive. So I personally do it. I walk the talk, as it were. Periodically, like this year, like this week, I will roll money out of my 401k plan. I think of my 401k as a conduit for putting as much money as I can away in a tax-advantaged manner. But when it comes to safety for the future, I have to roll out of the 401k plan now because the government really hasn't allowed annuities until recently to start being introduced to 401k plans.
Because we have mentioned the word annuity, it's often referred to as the A word in retirement. A lot of folks get a little anxious when you start mentioning the word annuity. For some reason, it gets a bad rap. And then when we say, well, wait a minute, there's options that'll give you guaranteed income, it doesn't make sense. How can that be a bad thing? What are some of the misconceptions of annuities, you think, Mark?
Oh, my heavens, there's a ton of trash talk out there from competitors. The biggest problem with annuities in terms of those who trash talk them is they tell you that your money's tied up, and it's not. It's absolutely not tied up. You've got total access to your money. Now, there may be some liquidation charges. People need to understand that all financial products have a cost associated with them, and the question is simply when you're going to pay them or if you're going to pay them. Most people pay cost up front. Some people, to kind of get into the party, as it were. Other people pay cost every year going along. And with annuities, the more common way of doing it is you only pay cost if you leave the party earlier than expected. Now, I say earlier than expected because you get to decide how long you want to be in the party. You can choose plans with 2-year or 5-year or 10-year liquidation schedules. They're called surrender charge schedules. But most of my clients never pay those costs because we never put all their money into accounts that have restrictions on them. So all these accounts have some level of access to them. And that's the biggest misconception out there. And the bottom line is if we simply refer to the features of an annuity rather than the name annuity, people almost always embrace it. Yeah. I mean, everyone loves the idea of income you can't outlive. That's basically what Social Security is. So if you don't like the term annuity, then you don't like Social Security, basically, because that's its primary feature. Now, there's many, many other features people should become aware of, but That's the biggest misunderstanding out there. I think it's very disingenuous what some of these media gurus say. They give one-size-fits-all kind of advice, and it's basically like saying that, all boats are bad. I sell airplanes. You should have airplanes. Well, that's kind of stupid, because if you encounter water, the boats really function well over water. So the real question is, where do you want to go? What's your end destination? If I want to go from Las Vegas to Hawaii, I invariably need to be talking about airplanes. And I don't talk about rental cars until I'm in Oahu or wherever. And so we can't discount a particular kind of vehicle, be it an automotive vehicle or a financial vehicle, without questioning what the critics' motives are. Because every vehicle has a place for some people. Otherwise, those vehicles would not have been invented.
Yeah,
and annuities
exactly.
are wonderful. I personally, by the end of this week, will have 6 of them. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, my money is literally where my mouth is. It's not where all my money is.
Mark, I've asked you this several times before. I'm going to ask you again. For those out there that are maybe on the fence, maybe they're thinking, I'm just not ready to have this conversation, or I have too much going on right now, or I'll figure it out myself. You name the excuse that they have. What is your elevator pitch to them to say, look, come in and sit down with a professional with 3 decades of experience?
I hope that people are humble enough to admit that they don't know what they don't know. Literally, I had a conversation this last week with a man who came off the radio show. He called in, had a couple $1 million, but it's all invested in a single company that's going gangbusters right now. And his primary concern was providing income that he and his wife could not outlive. And there's a 40-year age disparity between this couple. Wonderful, wonderful guy. I just love this guy. But he postponed our second appointment because what he said he wanted and what he's decided to do are 2 different things. And that is, like many people, he's decided, let's just try to ride this wave as long as it's going up. Well, the problem is everything that goes up eventually will come down. And so, again, we just invite people to come in and get another perspective.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.